Jehovah likened this capital of Judah to a woman clothed with costly garments, richly ornamented and bejeweled. Her loss of spirituality and her spiritual prostitution with the nations led to her being stripped of her adornments and left as if naked. S16. 2:10-39 Such stripping came not only in a spiritual way, but also literally, as her greedy conquerors took the city's wealth, including the bangles, headbands, moon-shaped ornaments, eardrops, bracelets, veils, headdresses, step chains, breastbands, houses of the soul, probably o textoi acute muritra longo. Ostrich represent divine blessing and favor, but, rather, her own pretenses and the benefits her harlot-like course pays her in the way of power and wealth. Re 17. 3-5, 16. 18. 7-20. See anklet. Beads. Bracelet. Brooch. Earring. Jewels and precious stones. Necklace. Nose ring. Ring. Ornan. A Jebusite from whom David bought the threshing floor that later became the site for the temple. 1 Ch 21. 18-28. 2 Ch 3. 1 Ornan is also called Orona. See Orona. Orpah. The Moabite wife of Chilion, and like Ruth, a daughter-in-law of Naomi. Compare 1. 3-5 with 4. 10. After the husbands of all three died, the childless widows, Naomi, Orpah, and Ruth, began the journey from Moab to Bethlehem. At a certain point Naomi urged her two daughters-in-law to go back to their mother's homes and marry in Moab, but they both kept saying to Naomi, "No, but with you we shall return to your people." Orpah had dealt kindly with her mother-in-law, for whom she evidently felt considerable affection. Ru 1. 8-10 Her inclination to continue on with Naomi may have been in part the result of having enjoyed life in an Israelite family. But Naomi now stressed the strong probability that for these two Moabite widows to continue with her might mean a life of widowhood in Judah, inasmuch as Naomi had little hope of remarrying so as to bring forth sons, and even should this happen, she was sure that Orpah and Ruth would not want to wait until such sons matured so that they might perform their Brit marriage toward these Moabite widows. Orpah's affection and appreciation were not enough to keep her going along in the face of such a possible future, and after much weeping, she bade farewell to Naomi and Ruth and returned to her people and her gods. Ru 1. 3-15. Orphan. See fatherless boy. Osprey Heb. Perez. One of the flying creatures decreed as unclean and not to be eaten, according to the law covenant. La 11. 13. La 14. 12 Its Hebrew name Perez literally means the breaker. Understanding this to refer to the breaking of bones by bird of prey, the King James Version renders Perez as ossifrage, a name derived from Latin and meaning bone breaker. Others understand the Hebrew name to indicate a bird tearing its prey apart, and hence not necessarily denoting a breaker of bones. The osprey Pandion Halidiaris appears to be related to the hawk, but with certain distinct features, including feet with some similarity to those of the owl. The osprey's head and beak resemble those of the hawk. The body and wings are dark brown above and the underparts are white with streaks of brown. Measuring about 65 centimeters 26 inches in length, it has a wingspan of nearly 1.8 meters 6 feet. The osprey is found throughout the world, living near large bodies of water, where it feeds on fish that swim near the surface. The bird glides almost effortlessly above the water, wheeling gracefully and hovering until it locates its prey. Then it plunges swiftly downward, striking the water forcefully feet first, at times disappearing beneath the surface. It is admirably equipped for this type of attack, having dense compact plumage on its underparts to withstand some of the impact of hitting the water, and long, curved, very sharp claws that extend out from rough toes, enabling the bird to get a firm grip on its slippery prey. Observers say that in flying with the fish to shore to devour it, the osprey always grips the fish so that its head faces forward, thereby reducing air resistance. The osprey is fairly common on the coast and islands of southern Sinai. Other suggestions for the bird designated by the Hebrew Perez include the sea eagle Halidiaris albicilla, distinct from the osprey, and the Lammergia gibetus barbatus, a vulture known to carry bones and tortoises to some height and then drop them on rocks in order to break them open. Ostrich Heb. Bathhay Anna. Renewal plural. The first of these O textoi acute miritra longo. Ostrich 562 as a horse, mournful cry which has been likened to the roaring of a lion. The Smithsonian Series, 1944, Volume 9, p. 105. Compare Mic 1. 8. The ostrich Struthiocamelus is the largest living bird known, at times standing over 2 meters, 7 feet high at the crown of the head and weighing as much as 140 kilograms 300 pounds. The head is rather small and flat with very large eyes, the flexible neck is about 1 meter, 3 feet long, and like the powerful legs, both head and neck are bare of feathers. The body plumage, however, is luxuriant, the long soft wing and tail plumes being much prized in ancient and modern times. The sleek black and white plumage of the male contrasts with the dull grayish-brown color of the female. The ostrich is unique among all birds in having but 2 toes on each foot, one of them equipped with a claw-like hoof that becomes a dangerous weapon when the bird is forced to defend itself. Its height and keen vision, however, usually enable it to spot its enemies from afar, and the huge bird then warily moves away. While the ostrich feeds mainly on vegetation, it is also carnivorous, including snakes, lizards, and even small birds in its indiscriminate diet. It is found among the list of unclean birds prohibited by the Mosaic Law. Law 11. 13, 16. Law 14. 12, 15. Anciently known as the camel bird, the ostrich is able to endure for long periods without water and hence thrives in solitary wastelands. It is used in the Bible, along with jackals and similar creatures, as representative of desert life. Isla 43. 20 and to depict the ruinous desolation that became the fate of Edom and Babylon. Isla 13. 21. 34. 13. Job 50. 39. Job, rejected and detested, sitting among ashes, and mournfully crying out, considered himself like a brother to jackals and a companion to the daughters of the ostrich. Job 30. 29. Contrasted with stork. Jehovah God later drew Job's attention to the ostrich, and the things he pointed out strikingly illustrate some of the unusual features of that bird. Job 39. 13-18. In great contrast to the high-flying, majestically soaring storks with their broad powerful wings, the ostrich is flightless. Its wings are incapable of sustaining the bird's weight, and its flat breastbone lacks the keel that supports the flying muscles of birds of flight. The ostrich's plumes, though lovely, lack even the tiny hook-like filaments that cling together and give the feathers of flying birds the resistance to air that makes flight possible. Job 39. 13. Again in contrast to the stork, which builds its big nest firmly in the tops of trees. PS 104. 17. Buildings, or tall rocks, the ostrich merely scoops out a shallow depression in the ground surrounded by a low embankment. Here the female lays the eggs, weighing some 1.5 kilograms 3 pounds each, and since the ostrich is often polygamous unlike the stork, which is renowned for its fidelity to one mate, there may be a good number of eggs laid in the nest by the 2 or 3 hens. The male ostrich warms the nest eggs during the night and the hen incubates them by day, but she is known to leave the nest for periods during the day when the sun is hot. At such times the eggs, though very thick-shelled, are, nevertheless, vulnerable to damage or despoiling by animals or man. Job 39. 14, 15. Treat sons roughly. The statement that the ostrich does treat her sons roughly, as if not hers. Job 39. 16. In reference to ostriches as being cruel with respect to their offspring. Law 4. 3. Have been objected to by some who claim that parent ostriches are quite solicitous in caring for their young. While it is true that the Hebrew term renewal used at Job 39. The 13th of may grammatically apply to either male or female ostriches, some lexicographers understand it to refer to the female birds. This would seem to be the case in view of the connection with the eggs laid, obviously, by the hen bird. When understood as applying to the female, O textoi acute miritra longo, Oven 563 tends to run in a large curve, which permits its pursuers, if sufficient in number, to surround it. But on a straight course the ostrich's powerful legs enable it to laugh at the horse and at its rider. Job 39. 18. When running, its strides lengthen out to cover as much as 3.5 meters, 11 feet at a time, and its pace may reach as high as 70 km/h 44 miles per hour. The wings, useless for flight, nevertheless help to give balance to the bird's heavy body as it runs. The ostrich has certain characteristics that are said to stagger scientists, who tend to class the ostrich as among the lower or more primitive of living birds. It has a bladder collecting uric acid, an organ characteristic of mammals, but not possessed by any other family of birds. It also possesses eyelashes that protect its eyes from the blowing sun. Thus, though low in intelligence, the powerful, speedy ostrich gives credit to the wisdom of its creator. The Arabian ostrich Struthiocamelus syriacus, once abundant in Palestine and Arabia, is now extinct. Since 1973, a related African variety has been reintroduced into Israel. Avniatheni, shortened form of Avniel, son of Shemaiah and grandson of Karite Obed-Edom, appointed as a Levite gatekeeper before the sanctuary. Avni and his brothers were rulers of the house of their father. Capable, mighty men. 1 Ch 26. 1, 4, 6-8, 15. Avniel middle.l. The first named judge of Israel after Joshua. Avniel was the son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother. JG 1. 13. 3. 9. Jos 15. 17. While this grammatical structure allows for either Avniel or Kenaz to be Caleb's younger brother, to harmonize with other texts Avniel must be viewed as Caleb's nephew, the son of Caleb's brother Kenaz. Thus certain translations read, Avniel, the son of Caleb's younger brother, Kenaz. But, more additionally, Caleb was the son of Jephunneh, hence not a son of Kenaz as was Avniel. New 32. 12. 1 Ch 4. 15. Avniel's marriage to Achsah, a daughter of Caleb, came as a result of his victory over the Canaanite stronghold of Debir. Achsah's father Caleb had promised her to the conqueror of the city. Jos 15. 16-19. JG 1. 11-15. Avniel had a son named Hathath and established a permanent family in the tribe of Judah. Years later a descendant was chosen from this family to head a service group of 24,000 during David's reign. 1 Ch 4. 13. 27. 1, 15. Israel's first oppression by foreign kings due to disobedience lasted for 8 years. When they began to call to Jehovah for aid, he raised up Avniel to deliver them. With Jehovah's spirit upon him, Avniel defeated Cushan-Rishathaim, the king of Syria, and took general oversight and rendered judicial decisions among his brothers. JG 3. 8-11. Oven. A chamber that is heated in order to bake or to roast foods. Various types of ovens were used by the Hebrews and others. Picture, Volume 2, p. 952. Ovens of considerable size, consisting of a round hole in the ground, have been used in the Middle East up until modern times, some being as much as 1.5 or 1.8 meters, 5 or 6 feet deep and almost 1 meter, 3 feet in diameter. In an oven of this size, it was possible to roast an entire sheep by suspending it over the hot stones or coals. The bowl oven was used in biblical days and was probably similar to that employed by Palestinian peasants of modern times. A large clay bowl is placed inverted upon small stones on which the bread rests. The bowl is heated by the burning of fuel heat over and around it, and the bread is baked. Every Hebrew home likely had a portable jar oven, a type still used in Palestine. It was a large earthenware jar, about 0.9 meters, 3 feet high, having an opening at the top and widening toward the bottom. To heat it, fuel such as wood or grass was burned inside, the ashes being removed through a hole provided for that purpose. The top was closed, and when the jar was hot enough, dough was spread around the inside or otextoi acute muritra longo. Oval CF 564 household ovens were common among the Israelites and Egyptians in the land of Egypt. Thus, during the second plague, frogs even came up into their ovens and then eating troughs. X8. 3. The Tower of the Bake Ovens in Jerusalem was repaired under Nehemiah's direction during the restoration of the city's walls. NE 3. 11. 12. 38. This name's origin is uncertain, but it has been suggested that the tower was so named because commercial bakers had their ovens situated in that vicinity. Illustrative use. The oven is used in an expression denoting scarcity at Leviticus 26:26, which reads, "When I Jehovah have broken for you the rods around which ring-shaped loaves are suspended, 10 women will then actually bake your bread in but one oven and give back your bread by weight. And you must eat but you will not be satisfied." Under normal conditions, each woman would need an oven to do her daily baking. However, Leviticus 26:26 pointed to a time when there would be so little food available that one oven would be sufficient to handle all the baking that 10 women could do. And Hosea 7:4-7 compares adulterous Israelites to a baker's furnace, apparently because of the wicked desires burning within them. Overseer. The Hebrew word for overseer, par-middle.kid, is drawn from the verb par-middle.kad, meaning turn attention to GE 21. 1. Visit JG 15. 1. Appoint GE 39. 5. Or commission as 1. 2. Similarly, the Greek word for overseer, e-middle.pisco-middle.pos, is related to the verb e-middle.pi-middle.sco-middle.po, meaning watch carefully Heb 12. 15, and to the noun e-middle.pi-middle.sco-middle.pe, meaning inspection Lu 19. 44, int. 1 pe2. 12, overseer 1 t3. 1, or oversight Ac 1. 20. The Greek Septuagint renders the Hebrew word pakid 4 times as e-middle.pisco-middle.pos. JG 9. 28. NE 11. 9, 14, 22. Therefore, the overseer was one who gave attention to certain matters or persons, visiting, inspecting, and appointing. Protective supervision is a basic idea inherent in the Greek term. Overseers in the Hebrew Scriptures. Joseph counseled Pharaoh to appoint overseers over the land to lay up stores during the years of plenty against the coming famine. GE 41. 34-36. Under their respective chieftains, each family line of the Levites had its particular responsibility as regards the oversight of tabernacle duties. New 3. 24-26, 30, 31, 35-37. Eleazar, Aaron's son, was made the chieftain of the chieftains of the Levites and had general oversight of the tabernacle structure and its utensils. New 3. 32. 4. 16. The high priest also might appoint overseers for certain sanctuary services. 2K11. 18. 1 Chronicles chapters 23-27 shows the numerous and varied positions and arrangements for oversight in effect during David's reign, as regards both the priesthood and the royal court, including economic and military matters. The prophecy of Isaiah 60:17 sets overseers in parallel with task assigners, since overseers may assign work to others as well as supervise and watch over the interests of those persons or things entrusted to their care. In this prophecy, Jehovah foretells the time when he would appoint peace as your overseers and righteousness as your task assigners, a prophecy initially fulfilled in Israel's restoration from exile, but more fully realized in the Christian congregation. Overseers in the Christian congregation. The Christian overseers e-middle.pisco-middle.poi correspond to those recognized as aldermen pre-middle.spita-middle.troi in the congregation. That both of these terms designate the same role in the congregation can be seen from the instance of Paul's calling the older men of the congregation of Ephesus to Miletus to meet with him there. In exhorting these older men, he states, "Pay attention to yourselves and to all the flock, among which the Holy Spirit has appointed you overseers form of e-middle.pisco-middle.poi, to shepherd the congregation of God." Act 20:17-28. The Apostle further makes this clear in O textoi acute miritra longo, al 565. Overseers, are older men ministerial servants 1t3. 1-71. 5-9, 1t3. 8-10, 12. 13. A reprehensible free from accusation husband of one wife husband of one wife not a drunken brawler not given to a lot of wine not a lover of money not greedy of dishonest gain not greedy of dishonest gain presiding over household in fine manner, having children in subjection, having believing children not under charge of debauchery, nor unruly, presiding in fine manner over children and own households, not newly converted, tested as to fitness, sound in mind, hospitable, qualified to teach, holding to the word in the art of teaching, able to exhort and reprove, not a smiter, reasonable, not self-willed, not belligerent, not prone to wrath, holy ones in union with Christ Jesus, who are in Philippi, along with overseers and ministerial servants. PHP 1. In this regard Manuel Garraway Gomez noted, certainly Episcopo in the protocol of the letter to the Philippians does not suppose a monarchic authority. It is rather a term that names the people of evident plural and collegial structure in charge of the direction and government of the Christian community of the Macedonian city. At the same time the diakonos, according to the general meaning of the word, are the helpers, the ministers of the Episcopo, and by the same token were at the service of the believers. Episcopo y Presbyteros, Burgos, Spain, 1962, p. 320. Qualifications of an overseer, or elder. To be appointed as an overseer, the following qualifications must be met. The overseer should therefore be irreprehensible, a husband of one wife, moderate in habits, sound in mind, orderly, hospitable, qualified to teach, not a drunken brawler, not a smiter, but reasonable, not belligerent, not a lover of money, a man presiding over his own household in a fine manner, having children in subjection with all seriousness. Not a newly converted man. He should also have a fine testimony from people on the outside. 1t3. 1-7. Likewise, in his letter to Titus, in discussing the subject of making appointments of elders, Paul said that in order to qualify as such, the man had to be free from accusation, a husband of one wife, having believing children that were not under a charge of debauchery nor unruly. For an overseer must be free from accusation as God's steward, not self-willed, not prone to wrath, not a drunken brawler, not a smiter, not greedy of dishonest gain, but hospitable, a lover of goodness, sound in mind, righteous, loyal, self-controlled, holding firmly to the faithful word as respects his art of teaching, that he may be able both to exhort by the teaching that is healthful and to reprove those who contradict. Tit 1. 5-9. The differences in this latter list of qualifications evidently take into account the special needs of the congregations in Crete, where Titus was serving. Tit 1. 10-14. The Supreme Overseer. 1 Peter 2. 25 evidently quotes Isaiah 53. 6 as to those who like sheep went astray, and Peter then says, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. The reference must be to Jehovah God, since those to whom Peter wrote had not gone astray from Christ Jesus but, rather, through him has been led back to Jehovah God, who is the grand shepherd of his people. PS 23. 1. 80. 1. J 23. 3. S 34. 12. Jehovah is also an overseer, the one who makes inspection. PS 17. 3. The inspection gr. e.pi.sco.pe could be associated with expression of adverse judgment by him, as in the 1st century CE in the case of Jerusalem, which did not discern the time of her being inspected gr. e.pi.sco.pes. Lu 19. 44. Or it could bring favorable effect and benefits, as in the case of those glorifying God in the day for his inspection gr. e.pi.sco.peso text to acute miritra longo. Osm 566. The Bible account. Once thought to be related to the hawk family, owls are now generally associated with other night feeders, such as the whippoorwill and the nightjar. The owl has a short, hook beak and powerful vis-like talons resembling the hawk's, but differs by having a broad head, large eyes and ears, as well as by having a reversible toe on each foot so that, while the other toes point forward, this outer toe can be turned outward or even backward, thereby enabling the bird to get a firm grip on a variety of objects. The large eyes with their expanding irises make the greatest possible use of the dim light at night, and unlike most other birds, the owl's eyes both face forward, enabling it to view an object with both eyes at once. Its soft plumage is in mottled shades of brown, grey, black, and white with an intricate feather pattern and generally gives an impression of exaggerated bulk to the bird's body. According to an article in Scientific American April 1962, p. 78, the owl's wings are ultrasonically quiet. The soft down on the upper surfaces and the feathery fringes on the leading and trailing edges of the wings apparently serve to reduce the turbulence of the airflow. Thus the owl noiselessly swoops through the darkness and silently drops down on its unsuspecting prey, primarily killing rodents, though some also eat smaller birds and insects. The cries of owls range from a shrill screech to a booming hooting sound. The Hebrew tag (mas) denotes a species of owl and is included in the list of unclean birds. 11, 13, 16. 14. 15. This Hebrew word, being related to a verb meaning to violence, is appropriate to the owl, which lives by preying on small rodents and birds. This kind of owl has been identified with the striated Scopsalotus barusi. Also included among the unclean birds is the Hebrew cause, rendered by some as the little owl and designated as Athenochra. 14. 16. KJNW-RS. See also Lexicon in Veteris Testamenti Libros, by L. Kuhler and W. Baumgartner, Leiden, 1958, p. 428. The little owl, about 25 centimeters 10 inches in length, is one of the most widely distributed owls in Palestine, found in thickets, olive groves, and desolate ruins. The psalmist in his lonely affliction felt like a little owl of desolated places. PS 102. 6. Appropriately, the Arabic name for this variety of owl means the mother of ruins. Another bird listed in the Mosaic law as unclean is the Hebrew yan middle-shup, a name thought by some to indicate a snorting or harsh blowing sound of the heb. Word for blow being nashaf. Others connect it with the twilight heb. Anishaf is indicating simply a nocturnal bird. 11. 17. 14. 16. Lexicon in Veteris Testamenti Libros p. 386 identifies this bird as the long-eared owl Asiaotus. A bird about 38 centimeters 15 inches in length, the long-eared owl is so called from the ear-like erectile tufts on the sides of its broad head. It frequents wooded and desolate areas and is depicted as one of the creatures to inhabit the ruins of Edom. Issa 34. 11. The abandoned houses in Babylon's ruins were foretold to be filled with eagle owls, plural form of awake. Issa 13. 21. These circumstances and the Hebrew name, understood to denote a creature that howls with a doleful cry, well fit the eagle owl. Some would identify awake with Burbo aharonii, a variety of eagle owl inhabiting the desert regions of Palestine. However, the identification as the Egyptian or dark desert eagle owl Burbo ascalaphus, found from Morocco to Iraq, harmonizes well with the locale of the prophecy recorded in Isaiah 13. The eagle owl is the largest and most powerful of the owls of these regions. Its cry is a loud, prolonged, powerful hoot. Like other owls, at night its large eyes have a luminescent reddish-yellow glow when reflecting light, and together with its mournful cry, this characteristic doubtless contributed to Autotextoi acute miritra longo, 567 para middle dry, possibly from a root meaning open wide. An arbit and one of the mighty men of David's military forces. 2 23. 8, 35. He may be identical with the Nerera mentioned at 1 Chronicles 11. 37, in what appears to be a parallel list. Paddan possibly, plain flatland. The shortened form of Paddan Aram GE 35. 9. 48. 7. Apparently the same as the field of Syria Aram. GE 28. 6, 7. Ho 12. 12. Paddan was a region around the city of Haran in northern Mesopotamia. GE 28. 7, 10. 29. For though some consider Paddan and Aram Naharaim to be identical, it seems more likely that Paddan was a part of Aram Naharaim. GE 24. 10, FTN. 25. 20, FTN. This may be deduced from the fact that Aram Naharaim included mountainous territory, something that could not be true of Paddan, if its name is correctly understood to mean plain, flatland. New 23. 7, FTN. De 23. 4, FTN. The patriarch Abraham resided temporarily at Haran in Paddan. GE 12. 4. 28. 7, 10 later, from among the offspring of his relatives there, his son Isaac and then his grandson Jacob got their wives. GE 22. 20-23. 25. 20. 28. 6. Jacob personally spent 20 years at Paddan in the service of his father-in-law Laban. GE 31. 17, 18, 36, 41. While there, he became father to Dinah and 11 sons. GE 29. 20. 30. 24. His 12th son, Benjamin, was born in Canaan. GE 35. 16-18, 22-26. 46. 15. 48. 7. Paddan Aram. See Paddan. Pardon from a root meaning redeem. Paternal head of a family of Nethinim. The sons of Paddan returned with Zerubbabel from the Babylonian exile. As 2. 1, 2, 43, 44. NE 7. 46, 47. Pagil Pagi Middle. Encounter with God. Wilderness chieftain of the tribe of Asher. Son of Ochran. New 1. 13, 16. He assisted Moses in taking the first census of Israel, presented his offering at the inauguration of the tabernacle altar, and took the military command of his tribe. New 1. 4, 5, 13, 17-19. 2. 27, 28. 7. 11, 72-77. 10. 26. Pahath Moab, governor of Moab. Founder of a family in Israel. If he was an official over Moab, as his name might imply, it was probably during the time when Moab was under Judah's domination. His holding such a position remains uncertain, however, as nothing is said of him personally in the scripture record. Pahath Moab's descendants noted in Ezra and Nehemiah are all post-exilic. Some of them comprised the second most numerous family to return with Zerubbabel in 537 BCE as 2. 1, 2, 6. NE 7. 11 by the time of Ezra's return in 468 BCE with more descendants of Pahath Moab accompanying him. Some of the first group or their offspring had taken foreign wives, but they responded to Ezra's admonition to dismiss them. Ezra 8. 1, 4. 10. 30, 44. Another of this family, Hashub, helped Nehemiah to repair Jerusalem's wall, and a descendant or representative of theirs also attested by seal the agreement of faithfulness that was put forward shortly thereafter. NE 3. 11. 9. 38. 10. 1, 14. Pain. A sensation of physical discomfort, whether moderate or severe. Also acute mental or emotional distress. Because of exhausting labor in cultivating cursed ground. GE 3. 17-19. 5. 29. Injurious words. PR 15. 1. The unresponsiveness of others to good. 9. 2. Disease and other adversities. Job 2. 13. 16. 6. Humans have experienced mental, emotional, and physical pain. Dreadful or frightening situations, whether real or visionary, have likewise given rise to pain. PS 55. 3, 4. Isla 21. 1-3. J 4. 19, 20. As 30. 4, 9. See also labor pains. No more pain. Although unpleasant, the physical sensation of pain serves a beneficial purpose by alerting a person to danger regarding bodily damage and thereby enables him to take steps to avoid a serious injury. The fulfillment of God's promise that neither will pain be any more. A 21. 4, therefore, could not mean that humans would become insensitive to or incapable of experiencing pain. Rather, mental, emotional, and textually acute miritra longo, Palace 568 with various diseases and torments. Mount 4. 24. Jesus bore the pains of others. Isla 53. 4. Figurative use. Often the scriptures refer to pain in a figurative sense. Depending upon the context, it may denote hard work PR5. 10 or a wholesome fear and awesome regard for Jehovah God. 1 Ch 16. 30. PS 96. 9. 114. 7 waters, mountains, and the earth, when in a state of agitation, are described as being in pain. PS 77. 16. 97. 4. J 51. 29. Hab 3. 10 Jehovah viewed unfaithful Judah as having an incurable pain, one threatening death. J 30. 15. Pains, or pangs, can also denote a distressing circumstance. With reference to Jesus Christ, the Apostle Peter stated, God resurrected him by loosing the pangs of death, because it was not possible for him to continue to be held fast by it. Act 2. 24 Although the dead are not conscious, death is a bitter and distressing circumstance, both in the pain that often precedes it and in the loss of all activity and freedom that its paralyzing grip brings. Compare PS 116. 3. Palace. The royal residence of a sovereign. Sometimes the spacious and stately dwelling of a prince or a powerful man of wealth. Darfur. 4. Lu 11. 21. See Governor's Palace. One Hebrew word for palace, Hemidal.Gil, often was applied to the temple as the dwelling place of the sovereign Lord Jehovah. 1 Sa 1. 9. 1 Chi 6. 3. Es 5. 14. Dar 5. 3 ancient palaces were frequently castle-like fortresses with battlement walls and massive gates. Ne 1. 1. Es 1. 2 The customary spacious courtyards and luxurious private gardens gave regal splendor and beauty to palace grounds. Es 1. 5. The Bible mentions the palaces of Assyria in Na 1. 1. 2. 6. Babylon 2 Chi 20. 18. 2 Ch 36. 7. Issa 39. 7. Dar 1. 4. 5. 5, and Persia as 4. 14. As 7. 7, 8. Those in Babylon were described as palaces of exquisite delight. Issa 13. 22 One of the grandest palaces of the ancient world was built by Solomon, as is indicated by the impression it made on the Queen of Sheba. 1 Chi 10. 4, 5. Solomon's palace, erected on Mount Moriah south of the temple, was just one of a number of government structures in this area that, altogether, took some 13 years to build. Included in this royal complex of buildings were the House of the Forest of Lebanon, the Porch of Pillars, and the Porch of the Throne. There was also a special house for Pharaoh's daughter, one of Solomon's many wives, besides the king's palace. 1 Chi 7. 1-8. The description we have of Solomon's palace is very meager compared with the details of the palatial temple. But the size of the foundation stones indicates that the palace must have been an impressive structure. In length these stones measured 8 cubits 3.6 meters, 11.7 feet and 10 cubits 4.5 meters, 14.6 feet, and they must have been of proportionate size in their width and thickness, weighing many tons. The walls consisted of costly stones carefully sawed to measured specifications on both inside and outside surfaces. 1 Chi 7. 9-11. Compare PS 144. 12. The psalmist, in the 45th Psalm, may have had in mind the decorations and furnishings of Solomon's palace when he made reference to the grand ivory palace. The Apostle Paul applies the words of this psalm to Jesus Christ the Heavenly King. PS 45. 8-15. Compare PS 45. 6-7 with Hajj 1. 8-9. U4. 18-21. Palal shortened form of Pilalia, meaning Jer is arbitrating. Repairer of a section of Jerusalem's wall in the days of Nehemiah. Son of Uzziah. Ne 3. 25. Palette. Seamouth. Palestine. That land situated at the eastern end of the Mediterranean, which was once occupied by the ancient nation of Israel. The name is derived from the Latin Palestina and the Greek par-stne. This latter word, in turn, is drawn from the Hebrew Pelasheth. In the Hebrew scriptures, Pelasheth translated Philistia occurs only in reference to the limited coastal territory occupied by the Philistines. X 15. 14. PS 60. 8. 83. 7. 87. 4. 108. 9. Iso textoi acute muritra longo, Palestine 569 routes past. Situated in what has been called the Fertile Crescent, Palestine itself was of particular interest, being a delightful place gifted with its own natural resources and special characteristics. The term Palestine as it is used today refers to a general region. It does not imply precise boundaries. On the S, an imaginary line could be drawn from the southern end of the Dead Sea to this corner of the Mediterranean, and on the N another line running from the southern slopes of Mount Hermon to a point near the city of Tyre. This area, from N to S, from Dan to Beersheba 1 to 3. 20. 2 to 3. 10, was about 240 kilometers 150 million length. From the Mediterranean Sea on the W, Palestine extended to the Arabian Desert on the E altogether. The area amounted to approximately 25,500 square kilometers 9,850 square mi, less than the size of Belgium, but a little larger than the state of New Hampshire, USA. Geographic features. Map, Volume 1, p. 333. For a comprehensive view of its geography, the territory of Palestine may be conveniently divided into 4 rather parallel regions running from N to S. First, there was a strip of fertile plain along the coast, a coast that, for the most part, had very little to offer in the way of natural harbors. Dividing this coastal plain in two was the promontory of the imposing Mount Carmel range, which jutted out almost to the sea. The northern section was known as the Plain of Asher or Phoenicia. The southern portion skirted around sand dunes nestled close to the sea, and it consisted of the Plain of Sharon and the Plain of Philistia, the latter widening out in the S. The second geographic region, next to the maritime plains, contained the principal mountain ranges, which ran on and S like a backbone of the country. In the N were the mountains of Naphtali, also called the Hills of Galilee. They were an extension of the Lebanon ranges, which were noted for their cedar forests, and their prominent Mount Hermon, which towered skyward 2,814 meters, 9,232 feet. The northern mountains of Palestine ranged in altitude from 1,208 meters, 3,963 feet at Hamaron in Upper Galilee to 562 meters, 1,844 feet for Mount Tabor, made famous in the days of Barak. JG 4. 12 below Mount Tabor was a comparatively broad central plain that cut transversely across the country from W to E, separating the northern mountains from those to the S. The Jezreel Valley, or Esdraelon, was where many decisive battles were fought. It consisted of 2 parts, the eastern lower plain of Jezreel, and the western section, the valley plain of Megiddo. Jos 17. 16. 2 ch 35. 22. To the W and N of the Megiddo Valley, which was drained by the Kishon, was the Carmel Range running southeasterly from the coast and joining the mountains of Ephraim, or Samaria, in which the historic peaks of Gerizim and Dubal were located, the latter being over 900 meters, 3,000 feet high. 11. 29 Continuing S, this range was known as the Mount Venus region of Judah, for though elevations varied from 600 meters, 2,000 feet to over 1,000 meters, 3,300 feet, the area consisted largely of plateaus, rounded hills, and gentle slopes. 2 ch 27. 4. 1. 39 Here in this region were such cities as Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Hebron. Gradually the Judean mountains on the S merged into the Negeb, a name thought to be from a root meaning be parched, a region that cross-section of Palestine's sea-level Great Sea coastal plain Shephelah Mts. Of Judah Mts. Of Samaria Lebanon Mts. Jordan Valley Tabliel and Mount Hermon sea level of Salt Sea, Palestine 570 extended to the Torrent Valley of Egypt and constituted the southern portion of Palestine. On the northern edge of the Negev was the oasis-like city of Beersheba. At the southern extremity, Kadesh Barnea. GE 12. 9. 20. 1. 22. 19. When approaching the mountains of Judah from the W, one comes to the hill section known as the Shephelah, with its several small WE valleys leading from the coastal plains to the highlands. Jos 9. 1. For the most part these hills were suitable for the grazing of flocks and cattle, the springs in the valleys furnishing the necessary water. The third feature of Palestine's geography was called the Arabia 11. 30. Part of the Great Rift Valley. It divides the country longitudinally from top to bottom. This deep cleft began in Syria to the N and extended southward all the way to the Red Sea's Gulf of the Kaaba. What made this central depression of the land all the more spectacular were the parallel mountain ranges and cliffs on either side of it. When tracing this trench-like depression from N to S, one quickly drops from the foothills of Mount Hermon to the Hula Basin, where the headwaters of the Jordan once formed a small lake. From there the Jordan, in some 16 kilometers 10 mi, rapidly drops over 270 meters 890 feet to the Sea of Galilee, which is about 210 meters 700 feet below sea level. From Galilee to the Dead Sea, this great rift in the earth's crust is the Jordan Valley proper, and by the Arabs is called the gorge, meaning depression. It is a gorge as much as 19 kilometers 12 mi wide in places. The Jordan itself is about 45 meters 150 feet below the floor of this valley. And as it slowly snakes its way down to the Dead Sea, it continues to drop about 180 meters 600 feet more. Picture, Volume 1, p. 334. This makes the surface of the Dead Sea about 400 meters 1,300 feet below the level of the Mediterranean, the lowest point on the Earth's surface. The extension of the Rift Valley south of the Dead Sea for another 160 kilometers 100 mi to the Gulf of Aqaba was more commonly known as the Arabia proper. The 2. 8 midway it reached its highest point, about 200 meters 650 feet above sea level. The fourth geographic region of Palestine consisted of hills and Tablil and Z of the Great Jordanian Rift. The 2. 36, 37. 3. 8-10 in the end this arable land extended E of the Sea of Galilee perhaps 100 kilometers 60 mi, while in the S the width was only about 40 kilometers 25 mi before it became a wilderness, arid steppes that eventually lost themselves in the Arabian desert. The wider, northern section of this rolling eastern region, above Ramoth Gilead, was called the land of Bashan, about 600 meters 2,000 feet in average altitude. S of Bashan, the dome-like region of Gilead attained an elevation of 1,000 meters 3,300 feet. On its S, Gilead bordered the Tablil and N of the torrent valley of Arnon, in which area was situated Mount Nebo, over 800 meters 2,630 feet high. This territory, at one time the possession of the Ammonites, was, in turn, bounded S of the torrent valley of Arnon by the land of Moab. Jos 13. 24, 25. JG 11. 12-28. Geographic names. The ancient Hebrew names of many cities, mountains, and valleys have been lost, partly due to the occupation of Palestine by the Arabs for much of the time since 638 CE, but, since Arabic is the living language most closely related to Hebrew, it is possible in some instances to identify with considerable accuracy certain ancient places and sites of major events. Some common Arabic and Hebrew geographic terms that are helpful in relating places to biblical sites are given on the following page. Climatic conditions. Palestine's climate is as diversified as its topography. In the matter of some 160 kilometers 100 mi, from the Dead Sea to Mount Hermon, the contrasting extremes in altitude produce climatic conditions equivalent to those that are elsewhere spread over thousands of miles in latitude between the tropics and the Arctic. Mount Hermon is usually snow-capped Macho Textoy Acute Muritra Longo, Pelu 571 Spring, rain comes in March and April. Dr 11. 14. Jo 2. 23. Z 10. 1. Jos 5. 7. One of Palestine's great assets is the abundance of dew, especially through the rainless summer months, for without the heavy dews many of the vineyards and grazing lands would suffer greatly. Hag 1. 10. Zakat. 12. The moisture-laden breezes blowing up from the Mediterranean and down from Mount Hermon account for much of the dew in Palestine. PS 133. 3. In certain areas the dew at night is so heavy that enough moisture is recovered by the vegetation to compensate for the losses during the heat of the day. Compare Job 29. 19. Of particular importance is the dew in the Negev and uplands of Gilead, where rainfall is minimal. See dew. Plants and animals. The tremendous variety of trees, shrubs, and plants found in this small area of the earth has been a source of amazement among botanists, one of whom estimates that there are about 2,600 plant varieties growing there. The diversity in altitude, climate, and soil helps to account for this variety in flora, some plants being at home in the cold alpine, others in the torrid desert, and still others in the alluvial plain or the rocky plateau, each blooming and bearing seed in its season. Within comparatively short distances from one another are found hot-weather palms and cold-weather oaks and pines. Willows along the streams and tamarisks in the wilderness. This land is also famous for its cultivated vineyards, olive groves, fig orchards, and fields of wheat, barley, and millet. Other crops include peas, beans, lentils, eggplants, onions, and cucumbers, as well as cotton and flax. Modern visitors to this land are often disappointed unless it is springtime, when the countryside is in full bloom with its flower spectacle. For most of the year, the stony hillsides are barren and bleak. At one time, however, parts of the land were more heavily wooded than at present, lush like the Garden of Jehovah, a veritable botanical garden flowing with milk and honey, hospitable and inviting. GE 13. 10. X3. 8. New 13. 23, 24. 8. 7-9. Animal, bird, and fish life was abundant in park-like Palestine, in the past more so than today. The lion, bear, wild boar, and hippopotamus are no longer present, but other wildlife that may be found include wolves, wild boars, wildcats, jackals, hares, and foxes. Domesticated animals are common. Sheep, goats, cows, horses, asses, and camels. It is estimated that there are about 85 different kinds of mammals, 350 kinds of birds, and 75 kinds of reptiles in Israel today. Resources from the ground. Besides proving to be a well-watered land capable of producing an abundance of foodstuffs, Palestine's mountains contained useful iron and copper ores. 8. 9. Gold, silver, tin, and lead had to be imported, but there were large deposits of salt, and in the Jordan Valley there were beds of clay for the brick, pottery, and foundry industries. 1 Kai 7. 46. Excellent limestone for the building trade was quarried, and there were outcroppings of dark basalt valued for its hardness and fine-grained texture. Palu shortened form of Pelea, meaning Jah has acted wonderfully. Second named son of Jacob's firstborn Reuben. GE 46. 9. Geographic terms Arabic Hebrew English Anon Spring, Enot, PL. Fountain Bait Bedhouse Bikar Bukati Valley Plain Becker, PL. Berbi apostrophe well Berkat Berekati Pool Bury Tower Darbrode, Wadibet Sandy Height Deer Convent, Monastery Meklo Plain Gay, GE Valley Gore Depression Givati Hill Givot T, PL. Jebel Harmoudin Kafkafar Village Kerbet Horvatiru in Mayel Ascent Midal Middle Tamayan Spring Mifres Bay, Gulf Mogami Arati Kavanaravinak Mountain Pathanbi Prophet Kalara Fortress Khan Kareen Peaklit. Hornkriati Krati Town Casa Castle, Paliso Textoy Acute Muridra Longo, Palutes 572 1ch5. 3. Palu founded the family of Palutes in the tribe of Reuben. X6. 14. New 26. 5. He is possibly the same son of Reuben called Pileth at Numbers 16. 1. Palutes Palu Middle.ites of belonging to Palu. A Reubenite family descended from Palu. New 26. 5. Palm Tree Heb. Tar Middle.march, to merge AG4. 5. GR. 4 Nex. The date palm Phoenix Nactylifera, though now found only in certain sections, was once abundant in Palestine and apparently was as characteristic of that area as it was in those of the Nile Valley of Egypt. Following the second destruction of Jerusalem, Roman Emperor Vespasian had numerous coins minted bearing the figure of a weeping woman seated beneath a palm tree with the inscription Judea Capta. Picture, Volume 2, p. 751. Palms are associated with oases and are a welcome sight to desert travelers, as were the 70 palm trees growing beside the 12 springs of water at Elim, the second stop of the marching Israelites after their crossing the Red Sea. X 15. 27. New 33. 9. In Bible times palms flourished on the coast of the Sea of Galilee. The Jewish War, 3, 516, 517 x 8 as well as along the lower reaches of the hot Jordan Valley, and they were particularly abundant around Engedi. Jewish Antiquities, 9, 7i, 2 and Jericho, called the City of the Palm Trees. The 34. 3. JG 1. 16. 3. 13. 2 CH 28. 15. They also grew in the highlands, as did Deborah's palm tree in the mountainous region of Ephraim. JG 4. 5. That they grew around Jerusalem is evident from the use made of their fronds at the festival of Booths. 23. 40. NE 8. 15 and also at the time of Jesus' entry into the city. Joe 12. 12, 13 Tamar, one of Solomon's cities, was named for the palm tree. 1 Kai 9. 17, 18 The land of Tyre and Sidon also later received the name Phoenicia, likely from a root meaning palm tree from their Greek Phoenix. 11. 19. 15. 3, as possibly did the city of Phoenix on the island of Crete. Act 27. 12. The tall, stately palm, with its straight, uniform trunk rising up to 30 meters, 100 feet and cresting with a plume of long feathery fronds, makes a graceful silhouette of unique beauty. Girls must have been pleased to receive the name Tamar, as did Judah's daughter-in-law Ge 38. 6. Absalom's sister Tusa 13. 1, and also his daughter, who was described as a woman most beautiful in appearance. Tusa 14. 27 The Shulamite maiden's stature was likened to that of a palm tree, and her breasts to its clusters. K 7. 7, 8 The spiral arrangement of its wood fibers also makes it a tree of unusual suppleness and strength. The palm tree comes to full bearing after 10 to 15 years and continues to bear for nearly 100 years, after which it gradually declines and dies toward the end of the 2nd century. The annual crop of dates grows in immense drooping clusters and is usually harvested by August-September. The Arabs say that the palm tree has as many uses as the year has days. In addition to the many uses for its fruit, the leaves are used for thatching roofs and the sides of houses, as well as for making fences, mats, baskets, and even dishes. Its fibers are used to make ropes and boat rigging. The date seeds, or kernels, are ground up and fed to the camels. Wax, sugar, oil, tannin, and resin are all obtained from the tree, and a potent drink called arak is distilled from the sap. Engraved carvings of the palm tree, with its erect form, beauty, and fruitfulness, made an appropriate decoration for the inner walls and the doors of Solomon's temple. 1 Kai 6. 29, 32, 35. 2 Ch 3. 5 as well as for the sides of the carriages used in the temple service. 1 Kai 7. 36, 37 Palm trees were seen by Ezekiel as decorating the side pillars of the gates of the visionary temple and also the inner walls and doors of the temple. As 40. 16-37. 41. 15-26 Being straight and tall as well as fruitful, the palm tree was also a fitting symbol of the righteous man planted in the Otextoi acute Muritra Longo, Perfo's 573 wife, and gave her in marriage to Paltiel. 1 Sir 25. 44 After becoming king, David demanded of Abner and Ishbosheth that Michal be returned to him. This greatly grieved Paltiel, who followed her, weeping, until Abner ordered him to go home. 2 Sir 3. 13-16. Paltite of belonging to Beth Pelet. Or, of belonging to the house of Pelet. A term used with reference to Holas, one of David's mighty men, and generally believed to refer to a native of Beth Pelet. 2 Sir 23. 8. 26 in the corresponding lists at 1 Chronicles 11. 27. 27. 10. Halas is called a Pelenite. See Pelenite. Pamphylia A small Roman province on the east coast of Asia Minor visited by Paul on his first missionary tour. Though the size of the province may have varied over the years, Pamphylia is commonly viewed as having been a strip along the coastline some 120 kilometers 75 mi long and up to 50 kilometers 30 mi wide. It was bounded by the